RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I'm Other Sam, the game professor.
And today we will be discussing, did we get to shoot the big gun?
No.
So we're discussing the 8th section of Final Fantasy VII, where we don't quite shoot the big gun yet. We get to Junon, but we do not shoot the big gun yet. As a reminder, this is a big sellout game to get all that sweet search engine optimization, and we sell out because we want people to vote on our big poll of the year. This one is not for Best of the Rest as normal, but for Bernard's Auto by RPGs. The poll is between Skies of Arcadia and Paper Mario. Let's check in and see if we've gotten any new votes. I don't think we have, but last I checked, Skies of Arcadia was winning the crap out of it, and still 100% people voting for Skies of Arcadia. So if you and 8 of your friends really want us to play Paper Mario, head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where you can vote and turn the tides. And while you do all of that, how is everyone's week or 2 or 3?
Oh my gosh, the time between when we played and spoke about the end of Disc 1 and now has been absolutely wild for me. Start new job, do new job. New job is good. It's hard. I can't talk about what I do. And
like a secret agent or something?
I'm not a secret agent. I'm not doing anything cool. I can tell you that much.
Or is that just what you want us to think to throw us off your secret agent trail?
Now I'm trying to figure out what would be completely uncool, but also top secret. And I genuinely cannot figure out what would be both of those things at once.
Well, when I worked for Waymo, it was decidedly uncool. I just had a really uncool job at a really cool place, and therefore I couldn't talk about the particulars of my job.
That's fair.
So it could be something similar.
Anyway, it's been intense. I've been working in an office for the first time in like over 3 years now. And that's been a transition that I've been dealing with. And I also read a really good book.
Yeah?
Yes, the book is called 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals by, I think the name is Oliver Berkman. It's about how productivity hacks and stuff are bullshit and get in the way of living your best life, and you need to accept the limitations of the human life and how to live in spite of them. And it's really good, and I think it might just like completely change my life. But awesome. I don't know yet because it hasn't happened yet because I just read the book.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee it's life-changing.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. So while you learn that productivity hacks are bullshit, you should let things happen. Do you want to start a 4th podcast where we play all of the Tales of games?
Yes.
I'm sure it'll work out great for us, seeing as how we recorded checks notes 0 episodes of all 3 podcasts in the past 3 weeks.
Why are we so bad at this?
It's been a rough couple of weeks, to be fair.
Everyone's bad at everything. I think that's the real secret.
Yeah. Everyone's bad at everything. And then on Sunday, when we were supposed to record, I had a date and it went really good. And I didn't think it was going to go really good because this person is a bad texter. But a lot of times when people say they're a bad texter, that means they're a bad communicator, and it's not actually going to be a good date. But no, this person is actually just a bad texter and was like super thrilled to be on a date with me, and everything was awesome. And all of the things that I was reading as she's not into me were just she doesn't use her phone very often, which is wild. But yeah, I had a good date, and it was good. And I had some Mexican food that was actually pretty good, which is a step up from a lot of places. The place, if you're here in Madison, Wisconsin, is El Imperio over here on the west side. Everything is flavored well and is really good. The recipes themselves are things that I wouldn't normally order, and therefore it's like pulling me out of my comfort zone, but doing it in a way that tastes good, and not pulling me out of my comfort zone by having green tea extract in your fucking salsa, which has happened up here, which is nasty. Don't do that. But yeah, other than that, the Atelier series is on sale, and it's almost never on sale on Steam. And I've been wanting to get back to playing Aisha now that I've beaten Ryza 2. But I was like, I was only playing the Dusk trilogy starting with Aisha as my first one because people said it was a great first one, but now everyone says that Ryza is a good first one, and now I've beaten Ryza, so I can kind of play all of them. So I just told Summer, I was like, hey, this series is on sale, my birthday's coming up, our taxes just came through, so surprise me with one of them. And she surprised me with the Dusk trilogy, so I'm back to playing Atelier Ryza, but I'm playing it on the Steam Deck now. Although nice. It says it's unsupported, the reason it's unsupported is because you have to use the touchscreen to get through the opening and like the launcher. And when it first came out, the cutscenes wouldn't play, but the cutscenes now play because Proton is updated, but they haven't gone through a second round of approving games yet because there's millions of fucking games to get through.
Yeah, there are a lot of games that say they don't work on Steam Deck, but then you can just like take the experimental like next version of Proton instead of the current stable one, and then they work fine. That's a really common workaround.
Yeah, they actually have a platinum on Proton DB right now. So if you have a Steam Deck and you want to get real cozy with the comfiest fucking RPGs, you should pick up some Atelier games. They're on sale for the next... more than likely I'll hear this tomorrow, so for the next like 4 or 5 days.
I could tell you right now, finally, for like the past solid minute, I've been tapping these buttons trying to get Steam to work. They're on sale until February 28th.
Okay.
I'll have to ask you about those at some, because I've seen them around, but I know next to nothing about them. So
the elevator pitch is... at least for the Dusk games, I'll give you that elevator pitch, is let's do the Final Fantasy X battle system, but if you spend some resource, I forget what it is, you can do interrupts. So if someone's going to attack you on your turn and your buddies are going to get hurt, you can like give up your turn to interrupt and go and stop them. And then the storyline basically doesn't exist. For Aisha, it's your sister is sick and you have 3 years to create the thing that will save her. And then in the meantime, you just have a bunch of adorable vignettes where you explore the world and make new friends and craft items, and it's wholesome and adorable, and I highly recommend the series.
All right.
What about you, Negasam? What have your last couple of weeks been like?
Oh, let's see. Been trying to finish some other games and stuff. Finished Crisis Core. I don't know. There's so many things. Revisited? Reunion. Crisis Core Reunion.
It's weird that they used Reunion for that one.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, man, I don't know. Honestly, Crisis Core's writing is not as good as I remember it being. There's a lot of weird nonsense and a lot of story threads that just don't pay off nearly as as I would hope. But the core stuff about Zack and Aerith and Cloud and such is pretty good. So it still works. Just I don't know. I know people who say it's their favorite Final Fantasy, and I don't think I'll ever understand that. But it's got some good stuff going on.
It was 2007. No one really knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand why it would be more impressive as a PSP game in 2000. A lot of the elements of it that make it kind of as awkward and haphazard as it feels sometimes just kind of makes sense for a game that was made for the PlayStation Portable back then. I don't blame it on some levels, but yeah, I don't know. So yeah, let's see. I'm trying to remember what all else I've been playing. Okay. Regardless of video games, outside of video game news, I got strep throat for the first time in my life, which it turns out is absolute fucking agony. I did not know it was that bad. Holy shit. It's awful. So, for a while I was recovering from that and I couldn't really focus on anything new. So I just replayed Sekiro, which is still extremely good. Pretty definitely my favorite FromSoft game. I love the hell out of it.
I should play a FromSoft game.
I should try playing Sekiro again. When I played it the first time, I just could not do it. I love FromSoft games, but I could not do it. It was too much for me.
Yeah, it's a weird one because it's not there's a degree to which Dark Souls or whatever, you can if you're dying all the time, you can run around, level grind, and then come back and it'll help a bit. Sekiro, there's not a whole lot of that. You just have to get good at it. There's not really another way around it, and it is really hard to get used to. It's kind of like how Bloodborne took Dark Souls and was hey, what if rolling was the thing you did all the time? Sekiro takes it and says, hey, what if countering is the thing you did all the time? You have to hit the block button every time something hits you. It's a lot to get used to. It took me a long time to click with it, but once you do, holy shit, I have rarely played anything so viscerally satisfying. Once you click with it, it is 1,000% worth it. I love it so much.
Yeah,
so yeah,
the problem is the countering is the thing I'm the worst at in most games.
Yeah, it does often just straight up turn into learn the enemy's attack patterns so you know to hit the button in the right pattern with the right timing, and that can be hard. Yeah. But yeah, third playthrough, I'm going through and beating things on the first time that I got stuck on for hours first time through. So, it's satisfying. It's good. It's fun. So let's see. That happened. There were other things. I played Unpacking, very cute, cozy little game. I got
so good.
Yeah, it's quite good. I got Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, which I'm enjoying the hell out of. Just lots of great Final Fantasy music. Just having fun with it.
I played a little bit of Unpacking, and I think it's from what I played, it's brilliant. It's beautiful. It has the most amazing Foley of any game ever. It's great and stuff. But I don't get how people say it's this relaxing Zen game. I'm it is emulating one of the most stressful things you can do. And it stresses me out.
See, packing is more stressful for me than unpacking, but also when it's not actually my house and I don't need to design it for actual functionality, I could just enjoy the process.
I mean, the whole moving house process is what I'm referring to, but no, I have to do it perfectly and it's stressful.
Yeah. The only time it stressed me out was when I got everything down and I'm yeah, cool, this makes sense. And then it's no, your laptop can't go on the desk. What are you talking about? And I'm what do you mean? That makes sense. And, now and again, there'd be something that it's hey, this doesn't go here. And I'm what do you mean it doesn't go there? But
my favorite thing is watching a bunch of Gen Z people on Twitter being why won't this Blender base go in the kitchen and it's a GameCube.
Oh no.
Yeah. But if you like unpacking and you either have Apple Arcade or are planning on getting a free trial of Apple Arcade to play Fantasian, Assemble with Care is an Apple Arcade game that is an unpacking like that you repair old electronics, and it's fantastic. Very good, and I highly recommend that as well.
I'm angry because Apple games or whatever is not only the only way to play Fantasian, but the only way to play the new like remake / sequel to Pocket Card Jockey, which is one of my favorite fucking games of all time. It's very bad for me. And I don't have any Apple devices, nor do I really want them. So that's just a thing. I'll never get to play any of those. And Lost Odyssey is one of my favorite games too, and I can't play Fantasian. I hate it.
Yeah, when I started playing Fantasian, I was like, because everybody was like, "Oh, it's like he made a new Final Fantasy game," but I played it, and it's not. It's like he made a new Lost Odyssey, and
you can't say that. I'm gonna get an iPhone just for that, and I hate them.
And Apple Arcade, I believe, is also the only way to play that new Yu Suzuki game, Air Twister.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
I believe it's a rail shooter.
Oh, weird. I can't believe I never really thought about rail shooters on a phone before, but that actually makes a lot of sense. Huh.
Anywho, speaking of all the games that we played, it reminded me I finally started playing Banjo-Kazooie: The Jiggies of Time, and it's way better than it has any right to be. Because
sorry, what is that?
It is a mod by Mark Kirko, the only person that makes Banjo-Kazooie mods that understands what makes a Banjo-Kazooie level fun. There's a whole lot of mods before he started doing it that just were grueling and unfun. Like the most popular one before he came on the scene, like made it kind of a Metroidvania, but instead of getting jiggies or doing anything, you would get notes, which if you remember in Banjo-Kazooie, every time you die, you lose all of them and have to do it again. Right. So imagine in Super Metroid, every time you died, you had to get like every single missile pack again.
No,
it's just ridiculous. But he like thoroughly understands what makes a banjo level fun, and so he made a mod that is what is, since Link canonically loses to Ganon in Ocarina of Time, the Deku Tree pulls in Banjo and Kazooie so that they can go and save Hyrule, which is a very stupid idea, and it easily could have just been import the models from Ocarina of Time and jump around them with Banjo and Kazooie and have fun. But instead, he expanded all of the areas to be a real Banjo level and have like the sort of secrets you're used to in Banjo-Kazooie plus the sort of secrets you know are there from Ocarina of Time, like merged together beautifully. And he'll do things like when you go to Castle Town, like you can actually go into the castle and not just Zelda's little courtyard. Like you can go into the castle and explore stuff there. And it's just, everything is expanded. Everything is really, really good. The first level is kind of like, that's cute, I'm jumping around Kokiri Forest as Banjo and Kazooie, but by the time you get to Castle Town, which is the second level, it's like revelatory. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it if you've been wanting to explore in Banjo Kazooie again for the first time since 2000.
Fun. That actually reminds me too, sorry, just of one more real quick, not that it's anything like Banjo Kazooie, but I also played Season, A Letter to the Future.
What's that?
It is a game in like a fantasy world, I guess. It's not too dissimilar from ours, but it's definitely not our world. Maybe like a post-apocalypse situation, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. But this world has like seasons sort of defined by important things ending or beginning or whatever. And someone in the main character's village has a vision that this season is ending soon. And so the main character leaves the village, the first person to in a long time, on a bike to use camera and a mic and just note taking and such to record what life is like in this season before it ends. So like, it's not quite an end of the world thing, but it kind of has that feeling, right? Of like, everything's coming to an end soon and we need to record what this is like. And you're just riding around on your bike, talking to people, taking pictures of things, like just seeing and recording what this world is before the end of it. And it's really good, like cozy, but in a melancholic, bittersweet sort of way. It's really good. I liked it a lot.
I don't know. Sounds like Banjo-Kazooie to me.
Yeah, that's what when I hear Banjo-Kazooie music, I think, man, this is melancholic as hell. I love it. That's not a dig at Banjo-Kazooie's soundtrack, by the way. It's a fantastic soundtrack, just, not like that.
Oh, yeah, Maddie's
Suddenly, Maddie Grace Webbing pops into the call.
So now I'm just imagining, like, I don't know, someone with a really melancholy, like Nier Automata, but with Banjo-Kazooie music.
Yeah. So, in Banjo-Kazooie, when you pause, it has different music. It does the fairy fountain theme in the Banjo-Kazooie sound font, and that version of the fairy fountain theme has been stuck in my head all week. So
it does sound fun.
But the other thing that I just thought of, and
we're never going to talk about Final Fantasy VII.
No, it's
never.
Never. This will be the last.
It's the most overrated Final Fantasy game. It sucks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hate that I even said that. Go on.
So fans of this podcast, and I know that this is true for fans of this podcast because most people have said that they've Googled this game and that's how they found the podcast. We're all probably excited that Legend of Dragoon is available on PS5, except apparently it's fucking broken and literally unplayable. If you transform into a Dragoon and use magic, your game freezes and you can't complete it. And there are so many.
An article from Forbes. New PlayStation Plus Classic is already disappointing fans.
Yeah, it's really broken, and there is a pinned sticky on Sony PlayStation forum somewhere. I don't remember the details about it, but there's a place to talk about issues in PlayStation Classic. So if you're listening to this and you're as upset as I am that we finally get an HD officially done in HD Legend of Dragoon and it's this garbage, go and complain and hopefully they'll fix it. This game should be completed and not freeze every battle. But speaking of freezing, let's go freeze our tuchus off and we'll talk about some Final Fantasy VII.
One thing I appreciate... Wait, sorry, was that music? Did the music just play? Was it the snow music?
I don't know.
It could be.
Okay, if it was the snow music, one thing I really appreciate about the snow music in Final Fantasy VII is that it doesn't use jingle bells. Sleigh bells are such easy, lazy shorthand for snowy tracks. And it's so nice to hear one that occasionally manages to nab the feel of it, but without using that. And the one for FF7 does not. So, good soundtrack is good, obviously. Mm-hmm. And if the song wasn't that, then I still say this, just not about that song that just played, I guess.
So, yes. Bernard, nothing happened last week, right? We didn't miss anything?
Nothing bad happened last week.
Oh, good. I was just really worried that something might happen to my favorite character, Aerith. So I'm glad she's still around.
Yeah.
Cloud senses that Sephiroth is to the north, beyond the snowfields. The gang leaves the City of the Ancients, all of them. They all leave, and makes their way to a tiny snowy mountain town called Icicle Inn. There they find video recordings in an abandoned lab, which fill in a bunch of plot. Note that these recordings, which fill in a ton of plot, are completely optional because that's how this game is.
In all fairness, I don't know that the information in them is necessarily required to follow the basic story, but it does fill in a lot of, pretty important gaps in backstory.
Yeah.
I don't know to what you are referring, so this game did a great job of telling me what to do.
Yeah, it's all the stuff about, like, Gast and Defalna and such, right?
Yes.
No clue.
Cool. In the first video, we see Professor Gast, a.k.a. Hojo's predecessor, and Defalna, a.k.a. Aerith's mother. Gast asks Defalna to tell him about the Cetra. She says that 2,000 years ago, the Cetra heard the cries of the planet. The Cetra of the Knowles Pole, which is the area we're in now, discovered the planet's wound. And when I saw Knowles Pole, I was like, is that a bad rendering of the katakana for North Pole? And Final Fantasy Wiki, finalfantasy.fandom.com, I'm squinting through the ads, and it says the katakana spelling of Knowles Pole seems to refer to North Pole, although Noruzoporu is strictly a Final Fantasy VII word. It may be intended as a variation of the word, or with a double meaning, possibly with something to do with Knowles. I don't know what they mean by it being strictly a Final Fantasy VII word.
I think you want it, like, in Japanese, you want it say North Pole like that. Maybe like Kita no Pole.
I'm pretty sure that's not it. There's probably just a Japanese word for it.
Yeah.
North Pole, according to Google Translate, is Hokkyoku.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense. Anyway.
The planet told the Cetra that something fell from the sky and injured it. Gast asks if the planet using all its power to heal its wound is the reason the land here is cold and barren. Ifalna says yes, and that the planet told the Cetra to leave the Knowles Pole. She says, when the Cetra were preparing to part with the land they loved, that's when it appeared. It looked like our dead mothers and our dead brothers, showing us specters of their past. That's when the one who injured the planet, or the crisis from the sky as we call it, came. It first approached as a friend, deceived them, and finally gave them the virus. The Cetra were attacked by the virus and went mad, transforming into monsters. Then it approached other Cetra clans and infected them with the virus. I want to note that that's not from the Be a Cause script, the updated script that makes more sense. That's from the original script, because the video I'm watching with the Be a Cause script skips all this because it's completely optional. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, some of this stuff probably makes a bit more sense
in an editing pass.
Yes. In the second video, Gast asks Ifalna to tell him about Weapon, capital W. She says the one the professor mistook for a Cetra was named Jenova, the crisis from the sky. As long as Jenova exists, the planet will never be able to fully heal, so the planet created something called Weapon to destroy the crisis from the sky. However, there's no record of Weapon being used. Some surviving Cetra defeated and confined Jenova. The planet no longer needed to use Weapon. However, it remained asleep in the planet. The planet still is not fully healed and is still watching for Jenova to awaken. In the third video, we discover that Gast is Aerith's father and that she was born here. In the fourth video, Ifalna wonders what dangers Aerith will face, but Gast says he will protect them. But then, there's a knock at the door. It's Dave Bautista in the new film from M. Night Shyamalan.
Did we wait? Is this an ad read? Are we sponsored by Knock at the Cabin?
God, I wish we were.
Right?
I would love to be sponsored by an M. Night Shyamalan film.
I need to see some of his recent stuff. He was my favorite director back before he started. One of my favorite directors. I love his first 3 movies a lot. And then,
Which are his first 3?
The Sixth Sense, which is legit like top 5 for me. I love the hell out of that movie. And then Unbreakable, and then Signs.
How do you feel about The Village?
I like The Village. I don't think it's great, but I like it. Also, like, just objectively, the cinematography is beautiful. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the worst movie I've ever... Like, no, it is at the very least a very gorgeous movie. I think it's fine.
I haven't seen it since, like, it came out, but I remember thinking it was pretty good.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, honestly, I think of him like Don Bluth. Don Bluth also made 3 fantastic, all-time great animated movies. And then made All Dogs Go to Heaven, which was fine. And then made, like, Rockadoodle and A Troll in Central Park somehow. So,
Rockadoodle is fantastic.
I don't know that that's the word I'd use for it.
It is wild. That's what it is.
That is a word I would use for it, yes. That one's accurate.
Yeah.
Anyway. Shinra soldiers, led by Hojo, barge in. He wants to take Ifalna and Aerith back for experimentation so they can, quote, change the future of the planet, unquote. Gatz says he's through with Shinra, but Hojo threatens him. One of the soldiers shoots out the camera, and terrible things probably happen. Anyway, the gang heads back outside, and Elena shows up and accuses them of killing Sung. Cloud says no, it was Sephiroth, but she doesn't believe him. She tries to punch him. He dodges, she falls, and rolls all the way down the mountain. Cloud takes an injured child's snowboard and uses it to head down the mountain in a pretty ridiculous minigame.
It goes on a little bit too long.
A lot of it too long.
It's still not the worst one, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
the worst one yet.
It's not bad. It's like, it's showing off the power of the PlayStation 1, baby.
Yeah. I got tired of it and I put it on to fast forward on my PS5 and just let it happen, and it still was like too long at 3 times the speed.
Yeah, it goes on. I mean, it's a whole mountain you got to go down.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, after this, there's a series of strange scenarios with bespoke mechanics as the gang heads toward the northern crater. None of it is important. As the gang crests the edge of the enormous crater, they see Mako energy erupting from the center and swirling in harsh winds. Cloud says this crater was created long ago when something fell out of the sky and crashed here. The energy is gathering here to heal the wound. Sephiroth wants to use Meteor in order to create an even worse wound so he can steal the planet's energy. The gang descends into the crater. Along the way, they encounter more of those mysterious robed figures, all marching forward, some collapsing and dying. Eventually, they spot a Shinra airship overhead. We cut inside. Rufus, Scarlet, and Heidegger are overjoyed at having found this, the Promised Land. Rufus states his intention to claim it. However, Hojo, who is also there, laughs and says this land belongs to no one. It is the final destination of the reunion, where they will all gather. Hojo wonders if they will meet Sephiroth. More robed figures marching forward and occasionally collapsing. The gang follows. Eventually they see Sephiroth. Cloud shouts that this is as far as he goes. Sephiroth says, indeed, this body has outlived its usefulness. He disappears. A voice echoes, our purpose is to deliver the black materia to our master, those who carry Jenova cells. Cloud asks who our master is, and the voice responds, Sephiroth, of course. Sephiroth appears behind the party and knocks them all down. He tosses another fragment of Jenova at them, and we have a boss fight. After the fight, Cloud realizes something about Jenova's reunion. Tifa asks if all this time it wasn't actually Sephiroth they were following. Cloud says he'll explain later, and right now the only thing that matters is beating Sephiroth. He says the real Sephiroth is just beyond here. He picks up the black materia, which has been sitting there since the boss fight. Now they just have to defeat Sephiroth, and that will be the end of it. Cloud decides to leave the Black Materia with Barret for safekeeping. He can also choose Red 13, apparently, but I chose Barret. He's the better character. Cloud, Tifa, and party member 3 head into the heart of the crater ahead of the rest of the gang. As they reach the center, the party finds themselves in Nibelheim. Cloud says this is an illusion created by Sephiroth in an effort to confuse them. We see the time Sephiroth, Cloud, and the 2 Shinra soldiers entered the town 5 years ago. Except, in Cloud's place, is the guy with black Shadow the Hedgehog-ass hair. Tifa calls at Sephiroth to stop. She tells Cloud, a bit too eagerly, that this is just an illusion. The scene shifts to the town in flames. Cloud says that the person who comes out of the mansion won't be him, since this is another stupid illusion. Indeed, the person who comes out is Shadow the Hedgehog. Cloud is unfazed, but Tifa is distraught. Cloud calls out to Sephiroth, saying he knows he's trying to make him believe he wasn't at Nibelheim 5 years ago for some reason. Sephiroth appears and says, "So you finally understand." Cloud flatly denies Sephiroth's version of events. He remembers the pain and heartache too vividly for it to be fake. Sephiroth says, "You are a puppet. You have no heart. You cannot feel pain. Thus, how can a memory like yours have any meaning?" Sephiroth insists that Cloud's memories are the illusion. Cloud still rejects the idea. He asks Sephiroth why he's doing this. Sephiroth says he wants to restore Cloud's true self because he was so useful as to give him the Black Materia. He says, "Who could have imagined that a failed creation would prove the most useful? Hojo will be less than pleased when he finds out, I'm sure." Cloud asks what Hojo has to do with anything. Sephiroth says that Cloud was created by Hojo shortly after Nibelheim's destruction. "A puppet created from the astonishing life force of Jenova's cells, Hojo's work, and the power of Mako. An incomplete Sephiroth copy, not even given a number. That is your reality." Tifa tells Cloud not to listen to Sephiroth. "Cover your ears, close your eyes," she says. Cloud insists that he's not buying it anyway, and Tifa continues to insist a bit too insistently that it's all a lie. Sephiroth ponders if the seed of doubt has been planted, and disappears. Cloud asks Tifa if Sephiroth is right, then corrects himself, saying that even though he loses himself sometimes and his memory has gaps, he'll never believe anything Sephiroth says. Cloud says, "You said that, didn't you? It's been a really long time. Those words will always support me. I'm your childhood friend. I'm Cloud from Nibelheim. No matter how unsure I am of myself, I know that much is true. So Tifa, don't be scared. I don't care what anyone else says to me. It's you that keeps me... ... Tifa hesitantly says, "You're wrong, Cloud." Cloud asks for clarification, and she just says she needs some more time to put it into words. Sephiroth reappears and says he will explain it. "Changing one's form, voice, and mannerisms based on the memories of another is an ability granted by Jenova. The Jenova inside you has merged with Tifa's memories and made you all that you are. The children from Tifa's past, for instance. Perhaps there was a boy named Cloud among them." Tifa tells Cloud not to think right now. Sephiroth implores him to think. He asks Cloud to recall the photo that was taken of them before they went to Mount Nebel. He plucks the photo from the photographer's dead body, which has been sitting there all this time, and shows it to Cloud. It shows Sephiroth, Tifa, and Shadow the Hedgehog. Sephiroth disappears, and Cloud insists to himself that the photo is a fake. He came here 5 years ago. He went to Tifa's room. He played the piano. He went through the drawers. He read the letter addressed to her. He was so excited to go to Mount Nebel the next day because that was his first mission as a first-class soldier. Then something snaps in Cloud's brain. He wonders when he joined Soldier. How you joined Soldier. Why can't he remember? He says he never really worried about this before because... Cloud tells Tifa he's all right and says it's time to go. We see the Shinra crew head into the center of the crater. I nearly said the crater of the crater, which it sort of is.
Yo, dog, I heard you like craters.
Oh. How
meme.
timely. Anyway, it's a cavern with walls of materia. A tangle of roots holding a massive chunk of materia hangs above them. Rufus says that with all this Mako, this truly is the Promised Land, but Hojo insists that the Promised Land is just a legend. The ground shakes and a giant eye opens behind the materia in the wall. Hojo is amazed to see the weapons from Gast's report are real. Weapons plural now. I'm guessing the vagueness of plurals in Japanese is the reason why it was just weapon in the flashback videos. But there's definitely more than one. We see Barrett and the rest of the gang waiting for Cloud and his party. Suddenly, Barrett finds himself standing alone in a strange void. Tifa runs up behind him and the world fades back in, though the rest of the party is still missing. Tifa tells Barrett that Cloud is in trouble and to head that way. He heads that way. Tifa turns to camera and says, "And don't forget the black materia." She turns into Sephiroth, then disappears. The party reappears, having apparently been knocked all down. We cut back to the Shinra crew. Cloud, Tifa, and party member 3 appear out of nowhere. Cloud tells Rufus to leave this to him and get out of here. He says this is where the reunion will take place, where everything will end and begin anew. Barrett runs up and asks Cloud what's wrong. Resisting our inputs yet again, Cloud approaches Barrett and asks him to give him back the black materia. Tifa calls out to Cloud, but he can't hear her. She could just run up and punch the fuck out of him, but she does not. Barrett apparently also cannot hear her. Barrett gives Cloud the black materia. Cloud tells everyone he's sorry, especially Tifa. He says he never did live up to being Cloud, and he hopes she'll meet him again someday. Hojo says this means this experiment was a success, and asks Cloud what his number was. Cloud says he never got one because he was a failure. He begs Hojo to give him a number. Hojo is appalled that the only one to make it here was a failure. Cloud floats up to the roots overhead. Rufus asks what Cloud is, and Hojo says he's a copy he created after Sephiroth died 5 years ago. He says Cloud is living proof that his Jenova reunion hypothesis is sound. Even if Jenova is dismembered, the parts will eventually converge on a single location, restoring her to life. Hojo waited patiently for the reunion. It was 5 years before the copies started to move. He had thought they would gather in Midgar, where he was holding Jenova, but Jenova itself began to move away from Shinra Tower. Hojo says the answer was Sephiroth. His will had not been dispersed into the life stream. He was manipulating the copies. Cloud rests among the roots overhead, remembering the reality of his existence. He wasn't pursuing Sephiroth, he was being summoned by him. Cloud's inner voice calls out to Sephiroth and says he's brought him the black materia. Cloud regards the chunk of materia in the center of the roots, which comes loose and descends slightly, revealing Sephiroth inside it. Hojo is thrilled to see Sephiroth avoided dispersal in the livestream and regrouped here. Tifa's like, "Why are you happy that Sephiroth is here? He is going to destroy the planet." Rufus says they must evacuate, and the gang is coming with him. Tifa calls up to Cloud to not do it. Cloud reaches into the materia, giving Sephiroth the black materia, and thus doing it. The gang and the Shinra crew rush out and board the airship as the area collapses. Enormous beasts emerge from the planet and fly in different directions. We see Cloud in a black void. He walks deeper in and fades away. Tifa chases after him but collapses. She says, "I didn't know what to do. I've always been like that." We see her find Cloud collapsed at the Sector 7 train station. When he recognizes her, he jumps to his feet. She says she never expected to find him here. She says he doesn't look so good. She's worried about him. He mentions it's been 5 years since he's seen her. Present Tifa thinks back to herself that actually it had been 7 years. Cloud had joined Soldier like he wanted, then quit after the Sephiroth incident. He told her about what had happened after he left Nibelheim. But something was wrong. There was something strange about what he was saying, not knowing things he should, knowing things he shouldn't. She wanted to ask about this, but it felt like pushing him away. She didn't want that. She wasn't sure what to do. She needed more time. That's why she told him about the Avalanche job. She wanted to be by his side and watch over him. And that's where the flashback ends, and it would be great if there was a Luna here. But there's not, so we play a little bit more to get to a save point and save. But we'll talk about what we did before the save point next week.
Yeah.
I say next week. It'll probably be like a month.
Next time. Whenever that happens to be.
It'll be next week. We can do this. We have the technology. All right, so yeah, let's listen to some more Final Fantasy VII music and then talk about all that crap we just learned. So, Cloud is a Sephiroth clone.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Sort of.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, that's spoilery, I suppose, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that he's a Sephiroth clone, and I think that it makes very clean use of the game's story and is not complicated for no reason, but I'm excited to play the rest of the game and see if I still hold that idea as more things develop.
I'm excited to play the rest of this game and remember what happens. It just sure is bold, the exact flavor of weird twists they throw in this game.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even explain too clearly the whole thing of you were never really chasing Sephiroth. Like, you haven't really seen Sephiroth until you see him in the materia, is my understanding.
Basically, but it's not that you've never seen Sephiroth so much as that Sephiroth's actual body is there, but he's been basically like almost, I guess, like possessing the clones, right?
Yeah.
Like the other failed clones that have been walking around in order to do what he's been doing out there. And then, of course, Cloud, since he also has a connection to Sephiroth. Honestly, this twist is this game came out way later, of course, but like it makes me think of BioShock a bit. This idea that you've been doing this stuff, you've been going where you've been going for a reason, but then it turns out there has also been this like subconscious reason why. Like Cloud hasn't just been chasing him because he thinks he has to or whatever, but there has been something, inside him that is pursuing Sephiroth because Sephiroth is calling him to do that. Like, all the other stuff was on some level justification for making it to the reunion, basically. Just that there's a little bit more going on in Cloud and his motivation that even Cloud hadn't been aware of is, I think it's pretty neat. It's a cool twist.
The idea that all the emotions driving Cloud were really just sort of a construct driving him to pursue Sephiroth and do the reunion is really neat. And yeah, this game did BioShock a decade earlier and did it better. I'm not a huge BioShock 1 hater, but Final Fantasy VII did it better.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the first BioShock, but I mean, yeah, I like this game even more so.
Never say the two words BioShock and Infinite around me too close together, or else I will just start screaming in pain for a very long time.
I think I'm going to end up doing a video on that game sometime this year, and I'm not necessarily excited for that.
Speaking of which, while at the same time being completely unrelated, I am a little bitch baby when it comes to scary games. Is Fatal Frame that you covered recently, is that like creepy scary or like jump scare scary? And should I play it before listening to you spoil it for me?
It is more creepy scary than jump scare scary.
Okay.
Like it's not in that it's not like unrefined scary. It's not like ghost jumping and like jump scares happen, but it's not like here's a bunch of gross stuff suddenly. It is also fucking terrifying though. Fatal Frame is like extremely so. I say give it a shot because they're some of my favorite games and I recommend it. But if you do have a hard time with scary games, you might have a tough time with them because they are quite scary.
I really like Silent Hill 2.
Okay.
And
you'll probably like Fatal Frame then. It might be a little more in your face scary than Silent Hill 2, but not much.
Okay. Yeah, and then I'll play it before I listen to you spoil it, because they've been on these look really interesting since the PS2 days, and I've never actually played them, and I didn't want to ruin a horror game I would like, since I don't like a lot of them. So
yes, that's a good call. At least give it a shot. I love them, the first three in particular. But yeah.
Anywho, Final Fantasy VII.
Yes,
there is some just really good. I guess you could call it filmmaking, but it's not like it's in any way emulating what would be done in a film. But like just the scene where Barrett is suddenly alone and Tifa runs up to him, just the way that everything on the screen goes away and turns into this weird Earthbound battle background, and then Tifa runs in and tells him to go away, and then Tifa turns to camera because they can do that now.
Yeah.
And there were just a lot of moments this week where we've been impressed by this before, but I'm just really impressed that this was this team's first time doing a 3D game. And they were clearly very excited about it and did a lot of cool stuff with it.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. I think it helps that it's still like a 2D-ish format. I mean, not always, but like a lot of the shots are, kind of the same, like top down, but at an angle perspective. But even so, like, yeah, they have a real good grasp on how to do that on the 3D visual storytelling.
Yeah, not just the 3D aspect of it, but like there's a lot of things where just the power of the Sony PlayStation gives them a lot more options than they would have on the Super Nintendo. And they use those options more often than they don't.
Yeah.
Also, there's like a 45-minute segment where you're just climbing a mountain and shit.
I was going to say, we didn't mention that mini game where you climb a mountain and then sometimes have to mash a button to get your temperature up and then climb more. It's very much one of those, like, and this isn't the only Final Fantasy game that has them. It's one of those, like, this isn't necessarily a compelling gameplay in its own right. It's just a thing that you're doing that isn't fighting things and running around. And that's fine. Like, as they go, it's not bad. It's just kind of filler.
And I don't know if I want to do this, but I feel like if I decided I wanted to, I could make a compelling argument that it really sells how dire the situation is, and it sells what the characters are going through, and it adds to the pacing and makes it feel like this treacherous journey that they're going on. I think we could we could do that if we wanted to. But mostly I just want to be like, lol, this is a mini game.
Yeah. And it just is. It's just the thing you do. I was zooming through it with my encounters turned off because it's funny. We recorded this like 3 weeks late, but we were going to, I think the first time that we couldn't record it, something came up like at the last minute. So I was zooming to get to beat it in time. And so I had my encounters turned off, and the parts where you have to do encounters to put the little ice blocks down, the game thankfully will put me into a battle to do that part, which confused the shit out of me because I definitely had encounters turned off, and then suddenly I had to fight. But yeah, it just is.
Yeah. Though this segment also has the mini game where Elena tries to punch you.
I enjoy Elena, and I hope she is wonderful in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I feel like she will be.
Absolutely.
Because everyone was wonderful in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've done justice and more to the characters so far, so I sure hope so. Because, man, she deserves to get... I'm still mad. Again, I like Advent Children. I actually like Advent Children a lot, maybe more than it deserves. But, man, they gave Elena the shaft in that. I'm very mad about it. We could have had Elena around for, the movie, and instead she shows up like twice, and I hate it. So, yeah, hopefully.
Yeah,
I mean, in Final Fantasy VII, Jessie has like 10 lines, and they just made her the best character in Remake.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what all Rebirth covers and what all it changes and all of that, because this, if I were breaking Final Fantasy up into 3, the second part, I would end at the end of this section. So, or part 2, I would end at the end of this section. So I wonder if Rebirth will get all the way here or what, because they said they were going to just do 3. And I wonder if it'll just be completely off the rails and the last one will just barely even resemble the original game.
Who even knows? Fucking knows?
I'm still kind of hoping they just forget all the Whispers shit from 7 and keep going like it never happened. But
no, it's fantastic.
No, I hate it.
It's the funniest joke in the history of video games.
It, like, as the games is lit guy, I would think that you would appreciate it more.
I appreciate it. Oh gosh, this is a whole thing. We're gonna get off it. I could go on about this. But yeah, no, I enjoy meta commentaries when they're where they belong and when they're not undermining a far better thing they could have been doing. But
True. However, I think it's really cool. And I think that I agree with Tim Rogers that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth should have just been called Final Fantasy VII 3.
That would have been silly.
Yeah. But for a really big, important section, I don't have so much to say about it because I know what happens in the next really big, important section. That kind of...
Right.
If we were playing this live, we probably would have a lot more like guesses of what's going to happen and what does this mean and all of that stuff. But we know what happens and we know what it means, and the particular flavor of what happens and what it means makes us not really have too much to say about this part.
Yeah, it's a lot and a lot of interesting stuff, and a lot of it. Well, for one, we have a lot of incomplete and some straight up false information, so that complicates it a little bit.
Yeah,
and then it's really just it's doing a lot of character development that is also set up for the completion of character arcs. So there's stuff to talk about, and when we get to Men Moms, I'm going to talk about some of it. But yeah.
Go ahead with some Men Moms.
Oh, sure, cool. Okay. Well, one thing I also love the bit where you can choose who to give the black materia to, especially because, like, look, the game already has jokes about what a ragtag team it is, but I'm sitting here like, okay, who do I give this extremely important materia to? And I had a number of options, including Yuffie, famously a materia thief, Kenshi, a Shinra spy, Sid, who's just some pilot that I like just met, and also the weird vampire who I also kind of just met. Like, there are some very questionable options in there.
Yeah, I gave it to the 13-year-old boy trapped in a dog's body because
yes, I did the same.
I thought that would be the best thing to do.
He seemed like he would be responsible with it, and also, again, a materia thief, a Shinra spy, some random pilot, and a random vampire. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. This does, I will say, really crystallizes, like Tifa's always come across as the mom friend, but this really crystallizes just how much that's been true. And it's not done crystallizing that. We've still got the live stream stuff later, but like this very much establishes that Tifa is, like, for all intents and purposes, Cloud's anchor for his entire sense of self. Like, and, you know, she took on that role, like, willingly, not quite understanding exactly how dire it was, but still, like, she sensed that she was needed, and she took that on, which I think really makes her character a lot better in retrospect. I think I mentioned 1 or 2 episodes ago that a lot of the time it's felt like Tifa's kind of just along for the ride. Like, she's not as personally invested in what's going on in the same way that a lot of these other characters are. She's just kind of here for Cloud, and this really... Like, if that was the extent of her character, that would be, like, that would kind of suck, right? That'd be, like, a really shallow, it'd be like a Vaughn kind of situation, just here because why not, you know?
Yeah.
But the fact that she is so central to Cloud and that she has been, like, doing this specifically because she's afraid he'll fall apart without her, and she's, you know, not even, she's more right than she even knows. You know, just really interesting for her, good development of her and what's going on with her and Cloud. There was, okay, for me at least, when we got to the bit in Nibelheim again, there was a dead guy on the ground who was winking. It's like they had his character model still blinking, but only with one eye. And I didn't like that. I did not like the dead man lying in the fire winking at me over and over again. It was distressing.
It's part of Sephiroth's creepy illusion.
No doubt. But anyway, one of my absolute favorite moments in the entire game in terms of just being, like, incredibly tragic and fucked up, more so than it necessarily seems on a surface level, is when Cloud begs Hojo for a number.
Oh, that is fucked up.
Yeah, like, there's just, he's this guy whose only real sense of self was kind of cobbled together from bits and pieces of a fucked up memory and the acceptance of a girl that he remembered, of a close friend. And it's unsurprising that was easy to shatter. Sephiroth came in with, you know, a number of truths and half-truths and just kind of messed it all up. And his entire like, you know, his sense of identity, his sense of self, everything is coming crashing down. He doesn't know who he is anymore, to a point where he accepts what he has been told about who he actually is, and tries to latch on to one more person who just happens to be arguably the worst person in this entire game. And just, like, says, hey, like, I am nothing. I am no one. Please define me. Like, all I am is a failed experiment. I'm just asking you to at least acknowledge that and give me an identity as a failed experiment, because, like, that's all he feels like he knows about himself anymore. It is remarkably sad and messed up. It's just very good. I really, this is another one of those moments where, like, between the translation and everything, it's easy to just read this scene and be like, oh yeah, Cloud doesn't know who he is. But the more you think about it, like, damn.
One thing from Let's Mosey, because we have to bring up the remake and we have to bring up Let's Mosey every episode. But one of the foreshadowings for this reveal that Sephiroth has been locked in a Icicle this whole time and he hasn't been there, is every time you go to ask people if Sephiroth has been seen there, they say, "Oh, is that guy in the black cloak?" Which is not what Sephiroth is wearing.
Right.
And it just, because the translation is so bad, we just assume in English that they just are saying cloak for trench coat or whatever. But no, they're talking about all of those clones that are doing everything, and we're attributing all of it to Sephiroth. Which is,
I hadn't even caught that. That's great.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
In the FMV at the end of this section, Tifa's boobs go crazy.
Some High School of the Dead type shit.
In case y'all need a refresher, I have pulled up the time-stamped FMV. They just go wild. I think that's my last memorable moment.
Oh boy. I do have a confession.
Just going fucking crazy.
I had the speed on because I'm playing on the Switch. I had the speed on during the scene with Elena because sometimes the words happen slowly, and I just have the speed on to make them happen faster because I can read faster than that. So I got punched by Elena because the game was going fast and I wasn't prepared. So that's me. That's my shame.
What happens? Do you die? Is it game over?
No, you just fall over pretty much. Like, I don't think it changes all that much. I'm just embarrassed.
She's like, "Well, I avenged Sung," and marches off.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. She does. I don't remember exactly what she says, but yeah, she's just happy about that.
I had something else, but I've played it like 3 weeks ago now, and so I can't quite remember.
Yeah,
what it was.
That's one problem when we have trouble recording. We play the game and then we forget.
Yeah. But it was really good. This game is really, really good, and everyone should play it. If for some reason you're not listening to this because you Googled Final Fantasy VII podcast, you should go and play this game. It's fantastic, and it does hold up. And CW in the Discord started playing it yesterday, and we gave them all of these different ways to to play it the best way, but it was also brought up that the best way to play this game is the way that you have access to. So even if you only have the crappy Android port, you should play the crappy Android port, because this game is really good and it's worth playing the crappy version or the really good version.
I think personally, I've just been playing the PlayStation 1 version, baby, and that has been a fantastic experience.
Yeah, there's kind of a, is that the best version? No, not really. But also, it was good enough when it came out, and it's good, it's a damn good game. And whatever format you play it in, it's still going to be a damn good game. Honestly, the main thing that I would say for the new versions isn't even the, translation fixes or whatever, especially since they haven't actually done a whole lot with that. I'd say it's the additions, speeding things up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially for purposes like this. I've played Final Fantasy VII. I'm not all that interested in its gameplay systems. It's good. I enjoy playing it, but when I replay Final Fantasy VII, I'm not doing it so that I can mess with materia and hit stuff in turn-based battles. I'm doing it so I can re-experience the story. So it's nice to be able to just kind of blast my way through it if that's what I'm feeling like on a replay.
When I played it the first time, I did Tifa Power Soul strats and stuff like that to be min-maxing, doing all the cool damage. I've materia'd enough. I can turn off random battles and put up speed up to a whole bunch and just enjoy one of my favorite game stories.
Yep.
I think a lot of RPGs like this that are on this level get a lot out of the pacing that you get when you have to go through all the battles full speed and everything. I feel like that can add a lot to the experience. But yeah, if you're replaying for a podcast,
Yeah,
turn those battles off, baby.
definitely. But anything else you want to say about this one before we head out?
No.
Well, I do have one hot take. Final Fantasy
Yes.
VII is good.
You're fired. You can't say that on this podcast. We have to be positive about everything except for Final Fantasy VII.
Ah, man. I knew I was messing something up. Oh well.
I have long been of the opinion that Final Fantasy VII is really, really good, but replaying it, I have still just been blown away by how good it is.
Honestly, it's one of those, and there are a number of games and movies and everything like this for me where, like, I remember it's good, and then I watch it and realize I forgot how good it actually is.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Final Fantasy VII, at this point, having, like, made a video about it and replayed it multiple times recently and stuff, I feel like I'm past that phase. I just know it's extremely good. But it was for a long time like that for me, where I'm like, yeah, that's one of my favorite games. And then I play it again, and I'm like, wow, how is this better than I remember? It's just really good. Like,
Yeah, like when I played it the first time, I remember everything up to Cosmo Canyon being like exquisite and fantastic, and then it kind of falling off sharply after that, and it just being like, okay, it's whatever. But this week, the whole I either missed it or didn't put it together properly in my head. All the things where Tifa was like, oh yeah, I knew you had weird broken amnesia and I could tell something was wrong with my friend and I wanted to help you. Like I missed that whole characterization of her the first time, and it's so freaking good and important, and it can just slip by you because the words as written don't all the time make sense, and so you can miss some things, and so every time you play it, it's like better and better and better.
that's the thing, again, like with the translation and such, like it's so weird how it's almost like it just makes it easy to do a surface reading of the game, but it doesn't remove the depth. Like the depth is still there if you if you look for it, if you're paying attention. It's such a weird phenomenon with this translation.
Yeah, with most good works of art, you can, get more the second time around, but that effect is very much multiplied in this game because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll do it for the week. If you liked what you heard today and you want to help us offset the costs of running the show, head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations are put back into the show to make it better, offset hosting costs and the like. We need to buy 2 copies of a game coming up on March 14th. So all of your donations will help us get that going. If you donate $1 or more a month, you'll get access to our book club no Kaseki episodes a month before everyone else. That's the series I was alluding to just now. It's the new Kaseki game that we're playing, comes out next month. So if you want to hear us cover Trails to Azure as soon as it comes out, go in and help us pay for it. You'll also be able to vote on our polls that decide what game we play next, like the poll that's live right now, which covers Bernard's Auto-Biographies, Skies of Arcadia, and Paper Mario. If you bump up your monthly contribution to $5 or more a month, you get access to the Warrior tier, where we shout out your name at the end of every episode. So shout outs to Floris, Kaldron, Freddie Rodriguez, Bernie L. Taylor, AA Ron 524, Anthony Lerma, Vim K, JFro Prime, and Doho. And then if you bump it up to $20 a month at the Luminary level, we'll not only read your name, but give you a 1-sentence shout out to whatever you want. The idea is for this to be a URL for your Twitch stream or your YouTube channel, or just to make me say something stupid. We now have 2 luminaries. Eliza Tantavi is our newest luminary, and they want you to check out www.nanoreno.org. So NANORENO.org. It is a upcoming visual novel game jam inspired by NaNoWriMo, where you make a visual novel over the month of March.
I'm actually considering doing that again.
I should probably finish the visual novel I've been working on for about 3 years.
Yeah, I actually finally just released the one that I did for NaNoRenO 2 years ago. I was waiting on art from my partner, and it's finally out.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm hoping to maybe do something else this year because it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Our other current Luminary Car is a dentist, so his shout out is not for a Twitch stream, but for your own mouth. And he asks that you brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And I am Sam number 2, the sequel to Sam.
Toodaloo, folks.